UPS could cause one of the biggest disasters for us fish keepers in a long time. Let's talk about why. Hello everyone, this is Bentley, and today we need to talk about something that's coming up very, very soon, and that is the expiration of UPS's contract with the Teamsters Union. This might not seem like it relates to fish, but trust me, this is actually important. And somebody must have been reading my mind because they mentioned me on the Aquarium Co-op's forum, wondering my take on this. The important thing to understand here, really quickly, is that about 340,000 of the employees UPS has here in the United States, mostly your drivers and people who pack those delivery vehicles, are all part-time or full-time union employees with the Teamsters Union. And for those of you who are relatively familiar with unions, of all the unions to pick a fight with, the Teamsters is probably the worst one because they actually have a decent amount of power to them. This contract, as it exists, as far as things for the drivers, their pay, all of the employees that are under the union, has been under negotiation since January of this year. UPS is holding out really hard. I won't get into the deep politics here, but the biggest thing is basically UPS made a killing during the pandemic. The majority of the everyday workers who were in the union did not really see the fruits of that high level of profit, such as the primary complaint. So they're at the negotiating table trying to do better things for the drivers. And the drivers that are full-time, that make good wages, they work 60, 65 hours a week. They work a lot. So part of this is to give them a better work-life balance, etc. But let's talk about how that impacts us fish keepers, right? It would seem on the outside that this shouldn't impact us. If contract negotiations within the next couple of weeks, by the end of July, do not come to fruition and a new contract is not established, the existing Teamsters are looking to strike, which means that effectively speaking, no UPS deliveries and shipping will occur within the United States and other parts of the world potentially as well. What does this mean? Well, because this is such a large volume of product and things moving, and it's not just the fish industry, it's your places like Amazon and Macy's, Walmart, all the other places that ship something to you that you can order. If they use UPS, they won't have any options. And because UPS is such a massive player in this game, it's not like the USPS and other carriers can actually pick up the slack. It's really just way, way too much volume. So what's going to happen? Things are going to get stuck. Things are going to take longer. And in the case of fish, that means disaster. I was actually talking with a friend of mine earlier today about how it will affect import orders and how basically he's looking at getting an import order in as soon as possible before the strike happens as a just in case. Basically what we're looking at is because this will cause massive delays if this strike occurs, because you've got to think 340,000 people will effectively be not working in the shipping industry. That's a ton. And most of that, I think it's something like 95% of that is United States. Yeah, it's scary. But basically what this means is that things like packages of fish could be stuck on a tarmac for days, when normally they would quickly move through the system and your overnight express shipping would happen overnight as we expected. Instead, things could be sitting for a week, 2 weeks, who knows how long. So this can impact more than just those of us who order online through great online retailers. It can also affect every fish store we know because they get their shipments of plants and fish and all these other things. They all come through similar channels. And even if they're not using UPS, maybe they use FedEx, they could still be affected because other retailers will start using those other options because they don't have access to UPS for a while. And that's going to bog down the system as a whole and just slow everything down. So you could even be looking at the potential that, like a plant order that comes from, say, Florida Aquatic Nurseries or Tropica up in Canada that comes down into the States, something like that, right? Those could get massive delays, and you could run into issues where some of your local fish stores or online sellers are receiving plants that are already in a horrible condition, if not dead, when they arrive due to delays. And it's even worse for fish, because fish are far more susceptible to problems in delayed shipping than plants are. So what does this mean for our hobby? Long term, it'll get worked out. But temporarily, this is a massive potential problem. And I think more people should pay attention to this. And this doesn't mean, rush and buy everything now. I mean, I'm sure certain retailers would appreciate that. What it really means is think about the things you care about, you really need, and if there's something that you absolutely can't be without, get yourself some spares early just in case. Now, if it's something that's commonly on a shelf and you're not worried about it, don't go panic buying. Don't be like people buying toilet paper at the start of the pandemic, all right? It's going to be okay. We're not going to run out of everything all of a sudden. But just understand that there is a potential for all of the UPS workers to go on strike. And if that occurs, this will be the first time in, I think it's 30-something years. It's been a very long time. We're going to see big delays in everything, not just fish. But in a case of our hobby, it's a little more detrimental because we're dealing with these tiny little lives and all these live things that are extremely susceptible to delays in shipment as far as ending up healthy in our hands. That's it. It's really simple. I don't think this warrants a massive thing, but I think it was important to talk about because there's a lot of people who might not know that this is on the horizon. What I'd really love to hear from is if you work in the shipping industry, whether it's UPS, FedEx, USPS, some other company, I would love to hear in the comments down below your perspective on what's going on anything. It doesn't have to be fish related, just because I find things like this very interesting when it comes to the way that it can be catastrophic when, honestly, greed comes into play from big corporations. But hopefully, people come to their senses and a good contract is worked out and the drivers are taken care of, all the UPS workers are taken care of, as rightfully so. They work hard jobs and they make a lot of the things in our country function. When it comes to getting all those things we care about, whether it's your doodad or your trinket that you bought on an online retailer's website, or more critical things like medication deliveries for people that live in more remote areas and don't have a local pharmacy, or even some of those local pharmacies and their deliveries. So with that being said, I'd love to hear from you folks down below. If you enjoy little videos like this, kind of short topical things, tips, tricks, things to watch out for and be afraid of, whatever it may be, give it a like, potentially share it out. Make sure that if you got a bunch of fish friends, make sure everybody knows what's coming on the horizon, because it's important for us to not necessarily panic, but be aware and make decisions accordingly. This is going to be something I'm going to be watching just because it'll be interesting to see how it resolves, which hopefully will happen without the need for a strike from the Teamsters. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and stay awesome.